Hello, my name's Tom Loosemore. I'm a partner at a consultancy called Public Digital. We were set up a few years ago, having previously founded the Government Digital Service in the UK. We joined the UK government in 2011, and by the time we left, we'd moved the UK to number one in the United Nations e-government rankings. We'd also had a huge amount of fun, and I'm very proud and honoured to work with some of the most amazing people I'll ever work with in the UK civil service. So at heart, I'm a civil servant. What I wanted to share today was our consultancy is called Public Digital. The bit of the UK government we set up is called the Government Digital Service. But that word digital, I think often is misunderstood, either willfully or through ignorance. So I wanted to spend my time with you today unpacking that word. What does it mean? What do we think digital means? We think this is so important that we've actually defined it carefully. And our definition of digital is as follows. Digital means applying the culture, processes, business models and technologies of the internet era to respond to people's raised expectations. But let's go through those four aspects of digital: culture, processes, business models and technologies of the internet era. What does it mean to apply those four things in an internet era way inside a government? So what do I mean by culture, internet era culture? I'd start by making sure that the organisation you're working in has a culture that begins with the question that the citizen has, rather than the solution that the organisation thinks the citizen needs. And we often talk about starting with the user need. Let's start every conversation with the problem that the citizen has, not the solution that the department or the government or the agency thinks is appropriate. Now that sounds like a little linguistic twist, but it's a huge cultural shift to look through your services, look through your policies through the eyes of citizens at every available opportunity. And if you change the language of your organisations, you change the organisation. But back to culture. I've touched upon this already. Your teams that are developing services, developing policies, developing outcomes need to be empowered. A big shift in internet era culture is moving from a hierarchical culture to an empowered team, whereby your leaders see their jobs as empowering teams, being servant leaders. How can I make sure my team, this team, is working to its fullest capacity, rather than a leadership style that demands the leader knows best and the leader has a solution and micromanaging individuals to deliver. Fundamental shift that's very, very challenging in most governments are still very hierarchical, neo-military in how they grade people and ban people. That is a huge change and a massive culture change. And when you see it working, when you've experienced a genuinely empowered culture, it's the best feeling in the world. The third area of digital, business models, internet era business models. Well, some very obvious ones here, which is we can make our existing public services, we can reduce the friction. We can apply for things online, we can pay for things online, we can sign up for things online, we can use the internet to deliver our existing services with lower friction and lower cost. I think there's a really important twist here though, which is if you drive that down to the view that says everyone should use the online channel, everyone should be online, online should be the only way you can get because the friction is reduced there, I think that's a really dangerous rabbit hole. Because I think when you look at the demand and the user need for typical government services, many people, most people possibly, would be quite happy with a totally frictionless. It means I can pay for my driving licence without needing to think about it anymore. There'll be some people, however, who really need a lot of support. And either through their personal experiences or their lives are just more complicated, either perpetually or in that particular moment. And there I think one of the tricks here is to take the savings you can gain from more efficient, lower friction online public services and reinvest a proportion of them, not all of the savings, but a proportion of the savings in actually improving the quality of your face-to-face or your individual personalised services for those who really need that support. And I don't just do that because it's the right thing to do as a public servant. I recommend that because that small proportion of people who really do need the help, individual personalised people helping them, not computers helping them, those people don't just disappear when the online version can't solve their problem. Their demand, their needs will pop up elsewhere in the system, systems thinking. So that balance between frictionless online services augmented by an even better face-to-face experience for those who really need it, I think is the right balance. Finally, and least importantly, when you're talking digital, you should also be talking about internet-era technology. And internet-era technology is radically, fundamentally different from pre-internet-era technology. They are chalk and cheese, and don't be scared or afraid of this. Don't pretend they're not either. Very, very different pre- and post-internet. Internet-era technology has at its heart the notion of openness. Open standards, so one piece of technology can plug into another piece of technology because they have agreed to use the same standard. Open source code, so code is published open on the internet, like many countries are now doing, such that you can reuse other bits of code. And critically, an openness of culture whereby you recognise that something is never finished and you're always going for agility and improvement, that notion of iteration, that openness that there will be another better way. We're not building a motorway here that will never change. We're building a service, technology to build a service, to improve a service that's ever improving, ever changing. Second area of technology is the approach to how you think about deploying technology, which is to stop not thinking about big black boxes of technology, but thinking about small pieces loosely joined. Do we have a payments platform here? We have an identity platform here. We have a publishing platform here. We have a bit of data platform here. How do we loosely couple these things together to create the service? Rather than thinking, let me build one big black box. And that small pieces loosely joined is how the internet itself is made technologically, and it's how internet-era technology is deployed when it comes to supporting services. No complex technology needed in any bit of government I've ever seen, really. Government itself creates that complexity. Government services are generally really pretty simple. And so the technology really should be quite simple and boring and commodity and typically rented rather than bought, etc. Final area around technology is making sure the civil service itself has the right skills and capabilities to understand what I've just said, understand what it's buying, understand what new technology is emerging. Most of it will just be hype, so knowing when to ignore stuff for now and knowing to understand where there's some real value coming into the mix. And making sure you've got that capability to deploy software in that agile, iterative, constantly improving way. One of my most proud moments when working as a civil servant was discovering that less than a week after we'd launched gov.uk, which was the single website for the UK government, the team had made more than 100 software releases, improved the software more than 100 times in that week. And that wasn't a target, or that wasn't an ambition in and of itself. That was just the right thing to do because they'd had feedback from users, not about the content, that had changed many hundreds of times, but where they'd had improvements about the service itself, the website itself. They've been testing and learning, and rolling out software minute by minute by minute. And if you can't roll out new software, make changes to your software in a matter of hours, if not days, then frankly, you're not in the internet era and your software is probably not secure either because new threats emerge all that time. And that technological awareness and agility is absolutely essential to your government becoming digital.